Good afternoon and welcome to the Accessibility and Disability Policy Webinar Series. My name is Randy Turner and I'm the Accessibility Disability Rights Coordinator with the Governor's Committee on People with Disabilities. Today's focus is visitability, building today's housing for tomorrow. And we're going to start off with Susan Barr. Susan, can you take us away?
Yes, thank you, Randy. Thank you all for attending today. My name is Susan Barr, and I am the Manager of Residential Plan Review with the City of Austin in the Development Services Department. Just a quick disclaimer here about this presentation. This presentation is for the City of Austin's Visitability Ordinance number 2014-0130-021, which only applies to certain private residential projects. An accessible house presumes that a person with a disability will live in the unit, while a visitable house provides the ability to visit it and is more adaptable for future need. Also, the Americans with Disability Act, which only applies to commercial, public, and governmental buildings, is not covered in this presentation. So to give you a quick outline of the presentation, we'll be going over a brief history of the City of Austin's history and background of accessible code requirements, and then we'll also be going over the components of the 2014 ordinance, which has interior and exterior requirements, an ability to waive out of the exterior requirements, and then what needs to be submitted. So the history and background. There have been provisions for providing some type of accessibility inside the new construction of a single-family dwelling or duplex residence since the early 1980s. The requirements were limited to a 30-inch clear opening with 2x6 minimum lateral force wall reinforcement at 34 inches from and parallel to the interior floor finish. And then, Randy, could you click one more time? And then this gives you a visual of kind of what that looks like. So the dashed lines show the 2x6 blocking that needs to be provided. And then a 32-inch wide door will provide a 30-inch clear opening. And as we are living longer, there is a growing need to expand upon the existing regulations, allowing for better access into and around a home so that more people can age in place. So the components of the ordinance, there are 7 of them. And the first one is applicability. And then the second, compliance required at plan review. Third, visible bathrooms. Fourth, visible light switches, receptacles, and environmental controls. Fifth, visibility bathroom route. The 6th is visitability dwelling entrance. And the 7th is the exterior visible route. One thing I'd like to mention is that the first 6 were effective on February 10th of 2014. And then the last one, the exterior visible route, was not effective until July 1st of 2015. That gave people a pretty good time frame to get used to the requirements, and especially for the exterior visible route. So applicability. So a permit for construction of a new single-family or duplex dwelling with habitable space on the first floor must be designed and constructed as a visitable dwelling in compliance with the requirements of Section R320. The requirements of this section are limited to new construction and do not apply to remodels or additions. So what we're looking at here on the left-hand side is we have a carport and then a storage utility room and a carport. Since that storage utility room is not habitable, visitability does not need to be provided on that first floor. However, looking at the floor plan on the right, the space between the carports is a media room. And so because that is habitable, because it is habitable, then a half bathroom does need to be provided and that space does need to be visitable. So the compliance required at plan review needs to be done by a professional prepared by a registered design professional or other certified professional demonstrating compliance with all applicable requirements of this section. So first, we need a survey from a certified land surveyor, and then the plan documentation needs to be done by an architect or a certified building designer. So the next item is the visitable bathroom. So a visitable dwelling must be designed and constructed with at least one bathroom group or a half bath on the first floor that meets the following requirements. There must be a minimum clear opening of 30 inches. Like we mentioned before, lateral 2x6 or larger nominal wood blocking installed flush with the stud edges of the bathroom walls. And then that center line on the blocking must be 34 inches from and parallel to the interior floor level, except for the portion of the wall located directly behind the lavatory. And we have a couple of images to show you here. So this is that same floor plan that we were looking at earlier. And you can see that the dash line stops at the lavatory because you do not need to provide blocking behind the lavatory. And then our next image that we have is from actual construction site. So that is showing the 2x6 blocking at 34 inches to the center line. That's flush with the studs. The next item is the visible light switches, receptacles, and environmental controls. So the first floor of a visitable dwelling must meet the following requirements. The light switches and environmental controls must be no higher than 48 inches above the interior floor level, and outlets and receptacles must be a minimum of 15 inches above the interior floor level, except for floor outlets and receptacles. We have a couple images to show. So on the left, we have the construction drawing, interior elevations, kind of indicating those locations. And then on the right, we have actual images from construction sites. So as you can see, the outlet on the left is above the 15 inches. And then on the right, the outlets or the light switches actually are at 45 inches. So those both meet the code requirements. So the fifth item is the visitable bathroom route. So bathroom group or half bath designated for visitability must be accessible by a route with a minimum clear opening of 32 inches at the visible entrance and continuing through the living room, dining room, and kitchen, and be level with ramped or beveled changes at door thresholds. So what we have here on the left is showing the visible route going through all of those spaces, and it also indicates where the visible bathroom is. And then the next image, and there is an exception. It's the exception is the visible route is not required through an area located on a split level or sunken floor, provided an alternative route is available. So what we're showing on the right side is that the kitchen in the back, there's actually stairs that go up to it. However, and so you don't need to provide access to that or visitability through that, because we have the half bathroom that is on the same level as the other spaces, which is the living room, the family room, and rooms such like that. The sixth component is the visibility dwelling entrance. So a dwelling must be accessible by at least one no-step entrance with a beveled threshold of 1/2 inch or less and a door with a clear width of at least 32 inches. The entrance may be located at the front, rear, or side, or in the garage or carport of the dwelling. So what we have here is we have a floor plan of a house that's showing all of the exterior doors. And the front door is the one to the right. And so if you click, Randy, the front door location is the most common. And then if we have one more click, the entrance from the garage to the home is the second most common location. As an FYI, we just have an approved threshold detail. So we issued a code interpretation in 2013 that approved the following threshold. And so this has a 1 3/8. If there's a step in the concrete slab, from the inside to the outside, and that's 1 3/8. Using this type of threshold will then meet the requirements of a no-step entry. And then we have a link there where you can get some more information on that. So the last component, the exterior visible route. A visible entrance must have at least one visible route with a cross slope no greater than 2% that originates from garage, driveway, public street, or public sidewalk. A ramp included in an exterior visible route must comply with the residential code, which is section R311.8 of the 2012 IRC. So what we have here is an image of floor plan showing the options for the visible route. So one is looking at from the sidewalk to the front door, and then the next one is from the garage to inside the house. In the image on the right, we have you can see that the visible entrance is through the front door, and it's a very flush. Apologies. Very flush transition inside the home, into the home. So waiver requirements, there are a couple different options. So the requirements of section R320.7 do not apply to lots with 10% or greater slope prior to development, or properties for which compliance cannot be achieved without the use of a switchback ramp. Having this was important for Austin just because Austin is very, very hilly. And so we needed to have some kind of provision for all the sloped lots. So topographic information shall be performed by a Texas registered professional land surveyor. This survey shall be provided at the time of application submittal. The registered or certified design professional shall substantiate the request for the waiver. So this is showing one of the options of the slope waiver request. So we have the survey from the certified land surveyor at contours 1 foot or 2 feet. And then we have the height differential from the lowest point to the highest point, and that is 17 feet. And then there's also the distance between the lowest and the highest point of 150 feet, 8 inches. And then this is just pointing out that the survey is stamped by the professional land surveyor. And then we have like the high point, the low point. And then a couple more clicks. On the slope calculation, the 17-foot rise divided into the 150 feet, 8 inches run gives us a 11.3% slope. And then we have the substantiation from the design professional. So because the site is more than 10%, they do not have to comply with the exterior visible route. However, they still need to comply with the interior requirements. So the next option is a switchback waiver requirements. So a switchback waiver shall be determined by the slope between the elevation of the finished floor at the visible dwelling entrance and all potential origin points as defined in section R320.7. The horizontal distance shall be reduced by 6 feet to account for code required landings at the top and bottom of the ramp. So 320.7 talks about the potential origin points, the garage, driveway, public sidewalk, public street. And then this section R311.8.1 talks about the maximum slope for a ramp, it being 1 to 12. And that there is an exception in the IRC that if it is technically infeasible to comply because of site constraints, that a ramp may have a maximum slope of 1 to 8, which is a 12.5% slope. So here's an example of the switchback waiver request. And so calculations have been done that the overall site slope is less than 10%. So they're looking at how can we go about getting a switchback waiver. And so if we have the A, B, C, and D showing the different origin points. And then we have the slope calculations in the upper left-hand corner that have been substantiated by the design professional. And then this goes into a little bit more detail because it's really hard to see what those calculations were for each of the origination points. So with this, we have the first one is the garage. So if you click, there's A. So we have a 4-foot rise, 14-foot run, 29%. And then the driveway, there's two possible from the public or from the driveway itself, and those equate to 56% and 37%. And then for this street, we have a 28%, and then the sidewalk is 30%. And so with that, they would be able to get the waiver. So submittal requirements. So you need to have an interior visitability plan with graphic notations or a plan with descriptive notes. The exterior visibility plan shows exterior route and the components. And then the waivers, the survey with contours and registered design professional substantiation letters or notes. Plan sheets and or submittal exhibits that are necessary to demonstrate visibility compliance must be sealed by a Texas registered architect or a certified building designer. So this kind of shows you both options. So we have the visibility plan where they are showing in graphic form, either they don't have to show both, either you're going to be coming from the front door or you're going to be coming from the garage, but then it also has the parts and pieces called out in regards to the visitable bathroom and the blocking, the door size. And then there's also the option on the right, which has all the visibility notes written out. And then here's just a bigger image of the visibility notes written out. All right, and that is all. Thank you so much. Please let me know if you have any questions.
We did have one question so far. So this is applicable only to the city of Austin.
Correct.
But Daryl is going to share with us how to take this information and possibly get it established in your community that does not have such ordinances. So this is a great, this is the groundwork that you might need once you are able to establish some kind of visitability ordinance in your community. And I don't have any other questions right now, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry you have to leave early. We may have questions that come up later. If so, I'll email you and we can get those answered.
That sounds great. I can actually stay around until 3.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Great. Thank you all.
All right. And so now I am going to turn it over to Daryl. Thank you,
Right.
Daryl, for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Daryl Christensen, and I'm with Ability 360 here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm also, if we go to the next slide, please, Randy. And so my day job is as Vice President of Community Integration here in Phoenix, but I'm also a board member at the National Council on Independent Living, and I'm their co-chair for the Housing Subcommittee. And this is a organization that oversees a number of advocacy issues nationally, and certainly housing is a huge part of that for folks with disabilities. And so today's objectives for my portion here are 6. One is, why should I care about visitability in the first place? If no matter where you're sitting in the audience, whatever your position is, we're in the community, why should you care about it? And we'll answer that. What are the benefits of visitability? And there are many. We're going to sort of do a Dave Letterman and the top 10 myths and we're going to dispel them. Fourth, I'm going to talk about how to make visitability a reality in your community. And Susan has done a wonderful job in the city of Austin as a model, as are others in the nation. Fifth, we'll talk about building partnerships, and that really is the key towards moving forward. And then lastly, we'll talk about the playbook to pass a visitability ordinance. So why should I care? Right now, Americans move every 7 years on average. And current homes that have been built last between 50 and 100 years. So just simple math of a home that was built in 1971, there have been 7 families in and out of that property. The 100-year home from 1921, 14 families would have gone in and out buying and selling that single property. And you really don't know, it's not necessarily building for the initial home builder or the homeowner, but for the future as well. So we're talking, as Susan mentioned, about single family homes. And when we take this, only 38% of single family homes built before 1970 are visitable. And only half of the single family homes built before 1980 are visitable. So, 1980 to me sounds like just a couple of years ago, but that's already 40 years old. So with these numbers, there's a 60% chance that at least one person with a disability will be living in today's newly built homes. And you don't know which one, so you can't really pick and choose a 5% or 10%, but 60% will have at some point someone with a disability living there. Also, the visitability trends. So 70 years ago, back in the 50s, home accessibility increased to meet the needs of the veterans who were coming home from war. And by 2030, which is only, 9 years from now, it's projected that there will be 70 million Americans ages 65 and older. And 5 years out from that, in 2035, 1 in 3 households will be led by a resident 65 and older. Some more statistics to throw out is that the trends say that currently 80% of Americans over 50 want to remain in their current homes. And 95% of Americans over 75 want to remain at home. And both these figures come from AARP. And don't forget about the baby boomers. We're getting older too. And a quote from Eleanor Smith, who is from Concrete Change back in 1986. And she said, "These features hurt nobody, but they help a lot of others." So what are the benefits of visitability? It can be benefiting a resident with a permanent disability. So currently, I checked that the population of Texas is about 29.5 million people total. And then a couple of years ago, figures were that 3.2 million Texans have a permanent disability, or just under 12% of the population. And this figure of 3.2 million is actually the second largest in the United States behind California, as far as hard numbers of folks with disabilities. So, what we say is that acquiring a disability is an equal opportunity club. You can join it anytime. Either you're born with a disability like I was, or maybe you go out on the highway, I-35, get into a car accident, and you have a spinal cord injury or a brain injury. You go to the doctor's office, you're diagnosed with MS, whatever it might be. And if that doesn't happen, Mother Nature kicks in with the aging process. And so it's just part of the human experience, and you never know. The benefits also are for folks with temporary mobility impairments. And someone goes out and goes skiing and breaks a leg, or they fall in their home and have crutches or canes or other needs for a temporary basis. The benefits also include parents who have infants and using a stroller. Susan talked about the 0-step entrance. And it's much easier to get a stroller in and out of a home when there's no steps than having to deal with that. Grandparents coming to visit the family and the grandkids. Very common, right? And then moving furniture in and out, whether it's the new sofa or a big screen TV for next season's football games, it's much easier that way. Or just getting groceries in and out of the house without having to deal with steps. Additional benefits of visitability include eliminating costlier modifications later. For example, we'll talk about wider doorways, and doing it up front in new construction is about $2 per door. But to widen a doorway later and make the modification, you're talking just under $1,000. It could be $700 to $800 for one door to be widened. So it reduces that. Also, reducing falls, injuries, hospitalization, or nursing home placement. Last year alone in the country, falls and injuries cost $43.8 billion. And that many of them, as we know, happen in the home. There's increased convenience and comfort with accessibility and visitability. They're aesthetically pleasing. No longer do features look like your room is part of a hospital ward. These are very aesthetically pleasing. I like to tell people that, like for example, grab bars now come in mauve and taupe and peach colors to be very pleasing with the aesthetics. Folks, I'm a guy. I don't know what mauve and taupe are, and peach to me is a fruit. So it's aesthetically pleasing. And we've even seen where Chip and Joanna in Waco have done accessibility and visitability as well. I've been there and visited their market. And it's fully marketable to the general public. So this way, if you're a buyer or a seller, a developer, a homeowner, now you can actually buy and sell and put out to the market to the whole population. Otherwise, without these features, in a way, you're kind of cutting yourself off from the total marketplace. Next. So the top 10 myths that we'll dispel. First of all, the myth is that only a small percentage of houses need to have access because only a small portion of people need the disability-friendly features. Well, as we're saying, 60% of all new homes are projected to have a resident with a long-term severe mobility impairment over the lifetime of the house. Second myth is that in practice, a variety of construction and enforcement complexities make it impractical to mandate access in virtually all new homes. It can't be done. Well, folks, this is another myth. It's already been done. Existing ordinances for the past nearly 20 years and earlier demonstrate indisputable success. For example, down here in Arizona, Tucson and Pima County, there have been over 22,000 homes built to date, and over 3,000 homes built in the community of Bolingbrook, Illinois. And they show that administratively and construction-wise, they can be accomplished without negative intended consequences. So throw myth number 2 out the window. Number 3, a long list of universal design features like lowering the cabinets, need space under the kitchen sinks, roll-in showers, that they should be included in every home. The fact is, it's not practical to include this long list of features in all new homes. It would undermine the overall housing affordability essential for millions of us with disabilities and without. It's also practical to construct the most crucial features in all new houses. At least a one-step entrance, wide enough interior doors, and the bathroom doors as well. That is reasonable. And Susan and the City of Austin have gone further as well. Myth number 4. Myth number 4 says a zero-step entrance requires a conventional ramp with a 90-degree drop-offs at the edges and handrails. Fact is, in new construction, the lot can be graded so that sidewalk ties directly into the porch. I have an example that this took place actually in the city of Austin, and this was a large TND community in Austin. It was an abandoned airfield, and they were able to grade it out so that it worked for all units. So that can be done usually quite easily. Myth number 5 is that the zero-step entrance, as Susan mentioned, only works in a flat lot. And the fact is that steep lots are often easier than a flat lot because the driveway may be steep, but the gently sloped sidewalk that leads to the driveway, from the driveway to the porch, or an alley or attached garage may provide access. And here's a visual of the of a driveway with the sidewalk going to a front entrance of a home. Myth number 6 also speaks to the zero-step entrance, saying that it must be located at the front of the house. And again, we're saying the best location depends on the specific site, depending on the lot, the house type. It can be in the front door, back door, side door, or through the garage. And here's a picture of a garage, or on the back entrance going off, whereas the front entrance looks like it would be graded downward. So we're going off the back end. Myth number 6 that we're going to dispel is also that zero-step entrance is not practical. Whoops, 7. Thank you. When that it's not practical when building over a basement or crawl space. Again, this has been dispelled, that building over a basement or crawl space does not deter the cost-effective zero-step entrance. So another picture of a sidewalk going directly into a front door without steps. The last 3 here are very important. Myth number 8, basic access on new houses undermines affordability. Okay, if you're going to do all this and you're going to make changes, it's going to be cost prohibitive for anybody to do this. That's the myth. The fact is that basic access is compatible with affordability. You do a zero-step entrance, the 32-inch clear doorways. That's going to be $110 or less than a new, or less on the new house built on a concrete slab. 110 bucks. And it's about $610 to a new house built over a basement. And that's less than a cost of one single bay window added. So for folks with disabilities, you know, for all of us, the price point is very important, and adding these features certainly does not price anybody out of the market. But if we do the current norm and stay with where we're at of constructing barriers, that's where the unaffordability comes in, people. In human distress and financial consequences, steps at all entrances and narrow bathroom doors, they undermine the affordability through the renovations that we've talked about that strain family and public funds, through health and safety problems caused by inability to exit one's home independently or enter one's bathroom. And actually, it's through institutionalization when barriers contribute to moving to a nursing home. Seniors who don't have visitability features many times are prematurely sent to a nursing home, and this costs the community and taxpayers about $40,000 extra per person per year. So the affordability piece, throw that myth number 8 out as well. Myth 9 says that home builders and architects may need to scrap their existing approved plans and start over, causing huge expense to the home buyer. Again, this is simply not true, and it's been proven for nearly 30 years. Visitability features do not require this dramatic overhaul. And making these features a standard actually saves everyone. And the 10th myth is that a man's home is his castle, and the government would be overreaching their rights and freedoms. Fact is, in the public interest, there are already electrical codes, plumbing codes, setback codes. They're already there. And houses that are being built, or they're not being built the same way that they were in 1920 or 1970. Materials that we're using have changed and improved over the years. And energy efficiency, Energy Star standards, green codes, those are desired, and they actually enhance the end product. So we are doing things differently. We're doing them better. Visitability just adds to that equation. So then how do we make visitability a reality in your community? First of all, I would say, educate yourself. What do your local codes include now? What are other communities and states, what have they done to increase accessibility in private single family and duplex homes? I know that with not only Austin, but San Antonio and other communities in Texas, they're already doing it. So, get a hold of Susan and find out, more if you have questions of her for Austin and their example. Visitability.org is a great resource. And so you can check that out. And like I said, Austin, San Antonio, the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, they are good examples here in Texas as well. Also, nationally, Habitat for Humanity, they have been a great champion in doing visitability in their homes. And AARP, they're also advocates of visitability. They have some great materials out. If you check AARP's website, they have a great manual to check out and inform yourself. Do your homework. Identify the advantages of visitability and understand what I'll say are the hot buttons of various individuals or groups. What resonates with folks in the building industry, in the city governments, just what are their hot buttons? Some are that they want to make money. Home builders want to make money. Developers want to make money. Governments and such want to be cost effective. So or some people do it because they're good, caring folks and want to meet the needs of communities. What is their hot button that really resonates? That is what you want to find out. And so start to identify your allies and key players in your community. So building partnerships, people with disabilities in your community. Who better to ask than people who are going to use the features, right? Disability organizations, and this includes Centers for Independent Living. And for a list near you, it's ilru.org. Click on Texas and you'll have a full list of Centers for Independent Living. They're advocate organizations by and run by, for and by people with disabilities. Housing advocates, not only on disability issues, but senior issues. Who are the housing advocates in your community? You can build partnerships with folks. Mayor's Commission on Disability Issues in your town, and then of course the Governor Committee here on people with disabilities. And we've also found over the years that elected officials who have a personal story of maybe a family member or a friend or themselves who has a disability, they usually understand the issues and the needs much more clearly. So seek them out, find out are there any elected officials that have a personal story to share, and get them in that partnership. Also, of course, homeowners across the board. What we find too is that many people do not even know that these features are available to them. so they don't even ask. And so we've heard, builders say, well, we'll do whatever the customer wants, but if the customer doesn't know that these features are even available, they're not going to generally ask. So get the homeowners involved. There's, homeowners associations and such. Codes enforcement officials that they're, work with your local folks. Disaster planners, that may come as a surprise, but, given what Texas is dealing with this past week now and today, with disaster planning, with the weather change, climate change, busted pipes, hurricanes, how are we going to build new homes? Housing tech experts, also build them into the partnership. Design and planning professionals, architects, developers, home builders, realtors, everybody in the housing industry has a stake here. And it's a matter of how do we meet the needs of the community, not only today, but for tomorrow, as we're saying. So why should people care? And I've started to talk about this a little bit, but helping housing developers build better housing for all families. Again, this increases their sales. That if I was to tell you that your air conditioner was working on 85% capacity, and you have another air conditioner that's working on 100% capacity, I think you'd want to work on the 100%. And that's the same thing here with developers. They want to be able to reach the largest market possible so that they can have more sales and make more money. And nobody's going to argue about people making money on this. That's what people are in business for, but it's meeting community needs as well. Helping homeowners or home buyers to achieve that American dream of home ownership. Building equity, having a place to call home for their families and their kids, being able to stay there. And, like where seniors or older adults may have been in a home for many, many years. It's where they raise their kids. They want to stay there. They don't want to be schlepped off to some nursing home. Helping homeowners sustain that ownership and improve their financial situation. Again, building equity. To meet the community needs. Again, it's hard numbers. It's just, the numbers actually help to speak to being on the right side of visitability. It's meeting community needs. Also, why should people care? Because they want to make money. They want to be successful. And maybe it's a developer or a builder who wants to learn more about visitability, how they incorporate in all of their new subdivisions. They then would feel they have a leg up on their competitors. So build them into your partnership, educate them, and get them on your side. As far as municipalities go, this is good public policy for your community. And I've talked briefly about that. And economic growth. Communities want to grow. They want to bring people to the community. They want to bring that economic growth. And that includes people not only without disabilities or who are temporarily able-bodied, but also folks with disabilities as well. And the last point on this slide, thank you, is that you need to identify why people should care and how visitability meets their needs. And that's a way of building your coalition. So the last portion here is the playbook to passing visitability. It's really important, people, to learn the political process. What department oversees the housing ordinance, policy and procedures? I believe, Susan, you're with the community development, right? Okay. Okay, and so find out locally, what is the equivalent as to the departments there. What committees does the process have to go through? You may have a few different committees that it works itself through before getting to approval from council. And attend those meetings and be visible. People who show up decide. And then also bring people in, both the supporters of yours and those who are not initially supportive, and really understand their points of views and concerns. This is a way to draw a larger consensus so that everybody has a buy-in to it. Some are slow to change, but be persistent. The playbook also continues by saying that knowledge and relationship building really are the keys. So always speak from a foundation of facts and information. And this PowerPoint will be available to the attendees, I believe. So please use the foundations and facts. Ask questions and learn from others' experiences. You'll find on a couple of the websites that we've talked about, like visitability.org, there's other communities throughout the nation who've done this. Reach out to them and learn, ask questions, and speak from your heart and share your passion, saying this is important to me. I have a family member. I want to see, everybody have full access to being able to visit my neighbor. I mean, visitability came down to being able to, the ability to visit your neighbor. So this fall, when the Cowboys and the Texans and everyone's playing football, can you visit your neighbor to watch the game? Or are you going to be 3 doors down and you can't visit your neighbor at the household party for Sunday's game or Saturday's college game? Speak from your heart and your passion and learn, as I've said earlier, what's most important to others and speak their language and make a difference in your community, people. Hopefully this is why you're on today's call. You want to make a difference. It's not easy, but it is possible. So we're certainly here to help out. So next slide then is questions. And then if you could, Randy, if you can go one more, I'll put my contact information up there and take any questions that anybody has. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our first question is, okay, first I think I want to make clear that the whole idea about visitability is that it's not going, it would be great if we could go back and make everybody's house accessible in these at least five minor ways. But new construction in your community, how do we make sure from here on out, these homes that are built are accessible and visitable? So we do have a question that asked, does the city of Austin offer any financial assistance to owners seeking to make their homes more visitable? You're muted, Susan. Okay. Nope. Nope. We cannot hear you, Susan. I don't know what happened. It says you're unmuted, but you're not. Hang on, let me make you a co-host to see if there's anything. You want to try again? Nope, we can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Maybe you could type an answer into the chat box to all panelists and attendees.
Yeah, while we're getting Susan's answer, Randy, I just wanted to say that's a very good point that you made about new construction. Because, we're talking about the lifespan of a home, now that we're building in 2021, that's going to be 2071 or, 21, whatever. It's for the future, and the future is now. Thank you.
But there are some cities that have programs to assist people that are lower income to possibly add an accessible entrance or add some of these, maybe not go and replace all the wall sockets, but can help with some other accommodations getting into the home. And I'm going to ask Ron in a second to maybe talk about some of that because I think he's familiar with it, our executive director.
So Randy, this is Ron. I think Jules talking about are the architectural barrier removal programs that are often provided with community development block grant money from HUD. And those provide some mitigation of accessibility problems in older homes that were not built to a visitability standard. There are economic guidelines that apply to those, but that's more of a retrofit program. They can put in an accessible commode or grab bars in a shower or help put in a ramp, but they would not do all of the things that the visitability program does or the visitability ordinance.
Ron, you were the chair for the Austin Mayor's Committee on People with Disabilities for a while when the city ordinance was passed. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how you made that happen, how the committee was involved? And
yeah, I wasn't the chair when it passed. I was the chair the first time we attempted it. It took 2 attempts in Austin. I believe the first one was in 2009 or 10, and then of course it finally passed in 2014. And I didn't, or the mayor's committee didn't make it happen. It was a broad coalition of groups like ADAPT, ARSL, the Gray Panthers, the AARP. And just to echo all the things that were already said, it required going through different boards and commissions and educating folks and educating the city council.
we lost you, Ron. You broke up there.
I think we have Susan's chat.
Variances.
Oh,
okay.
right.
Sorry.
You're kind of fading in and out, Ron. Can you say that last part again?
Yeah, what the city of Austin did right is they listened to the builders and developers and they built in some variances or exceptions. If the 10% slope or topography on the lot is one way that you can get a variance. Nobody's asking a developer or builder to build a visitable home on the side of a cliff. It's just not feasible. And so the other thing that I thought they did is a lot of times when an ordinance passes, it becomes effective at the beginning of the next fiscal year. And often that gives builders little or no time to change their building plans or adapt to the new regulatory environment. And so providing a longer glide path or slope to help prepare for that change and implement your ordinance a year after it passes. I think those concessions to the builders are going to help reduce objections to it, but ultimately it's the right thing to do. And I recall when we looked the difference between the cost of a visitable home and a non-visitable home, the city staff at the time estimated that it would be approximately $500 more, but that $500 is not insignificant for somebody buying a home. But what you have to understand is they finance that $500 as part of the overall cost of the home over 30 years for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And within
You faded out again, Ron. Well, I'm sorry about that. Ron, we still can't hear you. I've put Ron's email address into the chat box. So if you would like to reach out to Ron directly here at the Governor's Committee on People with Disabilities, please do so. Do we have any more questions for our panelists? Well, seeing none, I want to thank you both for joining us today, Susan and Daryl. I know you've got to head out in a minute, Susan, anyway. It's great information. We will post this to our website. The session is being recorded. And we post the materials with the recording at the website. So I sent that information out through the chat box earlier, but you will get a follow-up email with a survey as well as the information on where to get the materials at our website in case you didn't get it out of the chat box. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you for our interpreters from Communication by Hand, and thank you for our captioning from Texas Closed Captioning. And have a nice day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.